Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be doing our final top 10 rankings for the cornerback position. Now, if you guys have been following the channel for a little bit now, we've been doing our 20 snap series. Basically, what we did was we took 20 snaps from any given game, we graded them, we went through a list of like 12 corners, and then we came up with like a final grade for that game. I went ahead and did that for 3 games. Every single player that's going to be on this list. So I have a really good understanding as to what the film brings for these guys. We're starting to get deeper and deeper into the draft cycle here. We're exactly 1 month away from the draft, so it's time to start planning our flag. I'm super excited. There was a lot of work leading up to this video, so I'm excited to share my top 10 with you guys today. So let's get right into it. Number 10 on my list is going to be Darius Rush from South Carolina. He was one of my favorite cornerbacks to watch leading up to the draft here. He absolutely demolished all of his pre-draft stuff. He looked really good at the Senior Bowl. He was very prepared, very athletic. He just looked like one of the best players there. He had himself a really good season this past season, allowed just 58% of his targets to be caught, only allowed 317 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Those are really good numbers there. And from this prospect moving on, the highlighted green numbers are going to be good numbers. I kind of have them tiered, like green will be good. If you see yellow, it'll be medium. And then if you see red, it'll be like a red flag, you know, not a good number. So he had good coverage numbers the whole season. I like all those numbers. He had a really good PFF grade. When I was watching his film, I think he did a really good job. His athleticism showed right up on tape. I thought he was exceptionally well against the run as well. You don't always see that from the top corners, but he was very good, fundamentally sound. He was very fluid with his hips. His speed was really good. Darius Rush's relative athletic score came out to a 9.79. Now, if you guys aren't familiar with a RAS score, that's basically just a composite of all of his numbers, his height, his weight, his agility, his 40 time. All of that gets compiled into a stat sheet, and then we can take these guys' athleticism and put them in a percentile. 9.79 was a really good number. He's an athlete. He showed it on tape. I really like the guy in my top 10. Next up, we have CB9. That's going to be Tyrique Stevenson from Miami. He transferred from Georgia after 2 years. He then went on to be Miami's CB1. He had a really good season this year, allowing only 42% of his passes to be caught. 353 yards on the season. Good number there. He allowed just 3 touchdowns, and he had 2 interceptions on the season as well. Really good production this past season. A PFF coverage grade of a 79.5 is good. His 20 snap series was pretty good. I really liked what I saw in film. He graded out with an average grade of a 3. I think that's solid. He wasn't the most athletic corner in the class, but I really did enjoy his tape. He was a tough player on tape. He wasn't afraid to jam when in press. He was good against the run. He wasn't afraid to tackle, step up, go make big plays. Overall, I like the player. I think he's going to be a day 2 guy, probably middle of the 2nd round, something around that range. He has really good size. He could be a really good boundary corner at the next level. It's a very strong CB class. If it wasn't, he'd probably be higher on this list, and I think he'll be a really good pick in the 2nd round. My CB8 in this class is going to be DJ Turner. Now, he's a little bit of a perplexing player because he's so small. Coming in at just 5'11", 178 pounds. He wasn't huge. He didn't have very long arms when measured at the combine, but he did have really good production in a tough conference, allowing just 46% completion percentage, just over 400 yards allowed, 2 touchdowns on the season, 1 interception. He was a pretty productive player. He played against the likes of Marvin Harrison, Emeka Egbuka. If you guys watched my 20 snap series, you saw that matchup against Marvin Harrison. I think he's a solid player. He's a technician. I liked what I saw on tape. He never looked like he was out of place. I know he's smaller, but he didn't look like he should be a slot guy. I believe he can succeed on the boundary at the next level. The tape that I watched was good. He scored out as a 4. He was very athletic despite his small size. A 9.59 RAS score. Very good. Again, technician, really good speed. I think he also has really good instincts. My projection is he's going to be a day 2 guy, probably in the top 50 if I were to guess. Maybe teams fade him a little bit because he's on the smaller side and he has short arms. But overall, I think he's a very good player. I think if you draft him and you don't expect him to start right away, let him get caught up to the speed of the NFL, he's going to be a good player, probably a CB2 at the next level. But overall, a really good selection in the 2nd round. Next up, we have one of the more polarizing players in the draft. That's going to be Keely Ringo. He was pegged as the CB1 at the beginning of the draft process. I wasn't super sold on him. I started watching the tape and I just started to fade him even more. I don't think he's a bad player. He's just not the CB1. He allowed over 500 yards on the season. He does play in a tough conference, but that's still a lot. He only allowed 1 touchdown. That's a good number. He had 2 interceptions. He does have good ball skills. He didn't have a great PFF grade this season. 70.3. That's not awesome. It's not terrible, but it's just not like one of the better CB numbers there. My average tape grade didn't come out awesome either. At just a 2, he was actually one of the lower tape grades that I gave out. The hype behind Keely Ringo was that he was such a big and powerful athlete. He was supposed to run really fast, although he did run a 4.3. He didn't test out super explosive in any other area. His agility didn't look great. He's just been a little underwhelming in this draft process. His RAS score was an 8.2. That's not elite, but I do think that upside is there. He's a big guy at 6'1", 207 pounds. I know there's talk about him being a safety at the next level. I think let's see him at corner first before we make that decision. He's not a completely bad player or anything like that. I just don't have him in my top 5. He's still going to go in the top 50 for me. He's one of the 50 best players in the class. And if you're going to take this guy, you're hoping that you can develop him into being a sound technical cornerback. Still a good corner, not my top 5. Next up, my CB6 is going to be Cam Smith. He was one of the first players I started watching in this class. I thought his film was really fun. He was a very physical person despite his smaller body. He had really good production this year. 47% completion percentage, 211 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Really good production there. PFF doesn't agree with it. They gave him just a 64.5 grade this year in coverage. The previous year, he graded out really well by PFF, but this year, PFF just didn't like what they saw on tape. I thought he was kind of middle of the pack. I gave him an average grade of a 4. That's not bad. That's not a red flag. I think he's a pretty solid player. He's really fluid. He's very technical. He was very athletic. People thought his speed was going to be bad, but he tested well in the 40. I really like Cam Smith overall as a prospect. I think the NFL is as well because he's so good in press man. Overall, a very solid prospect in my eyes. I think he's going to be worthy of a top 50 pick. He'll probably end up going just outside of the first round. Teams are looking for this kind of player. He has a lot of tenacity. He plays hard, plays big. I'm a fan of the player. He's just outside of my top 5. My CB5 in this class is going to be Emmanuel Forbes. He had the biggest red flag in this whole draft process. He came in weighing 166 pounds. I'm not going to pretend like that doesn't exist. That is crazy, crazy small, but I really liked what I saw on tape. I think everything is there that you want from a boundary corner. He had really good production while he was in college. So many interceptions. I believe he has like the NCAA pick 6 record overall for a career. Just an absolute monster. The best ball hawk in this entire class. He allowed just 284 yards on the season, 3 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Again, just has a nose for the ball. He had a PFF grade of an 89.3. And then my tape grade, I gave him a 6. I thought he was so good on tape. He had a relative athletic score at a 9.26. That is crazy good considering that 166 red flag that goes against his RAS score. Really good there. I project him to be a top 50 pick. I think he's a first round talent. Teams are just going to fade that small size. He's 166 pounds. If my Patriots take him in the second round, I will be so happy. I think he's a really, really good player. Whoever drafts him is probably going to get a steal. They're probably going to overanalyze the size. It is a concern. It's a really big concern if I'm being honest. But the tape's there, the talent's there, the production, all of it is such a green flag by me. Overall, solid player. I love the guy. Next up, we got Deontay Banks as my CB4. He has shot up the draft boards lately. His versatility, his athleticism, people diving into the tape to get familiar with the guy. He just checks off every box as a boundary corner. He had really good production this year, allowed only 43% of his passes to be caught, 258 yards on the season. He did allow 4 touchdowns, but again, all touchdowns aren't created equal. That's still not a great number there, but from his tape, they made him play on an island quite a bit. PFF gave him a coverage grade of a 74.3 on the season. That's middle of the pack. That's not terrible. I gave him some pretty good tape grades. I think I weighed the versatility as well as the commanding of the defense very highly. He looked like an NFL player to me every time I turned on the tape. He was a very solid tackler. He wasn't afraid to jam at the line. He was so smooth, very fluid. He looked like a leader out there. They used him in a bunch of different ways. He communicated so well with the other defenders. I think he's just a solid player. He's a top 3 in any other class. This is just such a solid class at cornerback. I'm a big fan of this guy. He's a versatile athlete. You can't ask for too much more as a boundary corner. He's a top 25 projected pick for me. He kind of falls right in like that Kyer Elam, Trent McDuffie range from last year. I think he's going to be really good at the next level as well. I'm excited to see what team takes the chance on this guy. My CB3 of the class might be someone else's CB1. It's going to be Joey Porter Jr. Now, I'm not going to debate with you guys and tell you why he's the CB3 and not the CB1. I think he's an excellent player, and all of these top 3 guys are like in the same tier for me. We're splitting hairs between the different guys. It's really pick your style. What do you like? He's firmly in my top 3. He comes in at a whopping 6'2", 193 pounds with some crazy long arms. He allowed no touchdowns, only 143 yards on the season, and a 50% completion percentage. Really productive there. He didn't have any interceptions on the season. That's not a big concern because he had a lot of PBUs, but that's like one of the knocks that people have been saying. He doesn't turn the ball over too much. But if you look at like JC Horn, Patrick Surtain, they didn't really turn the ball over either. Not a big red flag for me at all. PFF gave him a good grade at a 77.4. I gave him an average tape grade of a 5. That's good. One of the top corners in the class in my eyes. His relative athletic score was also very good at a 9.7. You want your top corners in the class to be very athletic, and he is just that. He's such an athlete at that size. He has like that perfect combo of size and athleticism at the boundary corner that you want. He's a very long corner. He projects so well to the NFL. He's firmly in my top 15 of the NFL draft. If he falls outside of the top 15, you're getting a steal without a doubt. Really good player, borderline elite prospect. I'm a fan. I really enjoy watching him. My CB2 of the class is going to be Devin Witherspoon from Illinois. He had one of the craziest seasons this past year in coverage, a 35% completion percentage, only 206 yards on the season allowed. He gave up 0 touchdowns and had 3 interceptions, and I believe he had something like 16 PBUs. Something out of this world, just really productive this year. PFF gave him a 92.5 coverage grade. That was the single best in this class. I gave him an average film grade of a 7. Phenomenal corner. Really love this prospect. He's been banged up this draft cycle, so he didn't do the combine. He also didn't participate in his pro day. I think he had like a banged up hamstring or something along those lines. So we don't have his relative athletic score. He is a bit on the smaller side at 5'11", 181 pounds. Not a big red flag there, but he's just definitely undersized. He doesn't have that ideal cornerback size that you're looking for, but his instincts, his man coverage ability, he is a top 15 player for me. Every time I turn on the tape, I'm like, what is he? I feel like I don't even know what he's doing because he's just so natural, so instinctual. He has that it factor. I have said it since I watched him. I literally watched one game by him and I'm like, oh, he looks different than everybody else. His read and react is out of this world. His ability to compete at the catch point is just amazing. His physicality, unmatched. His instincts are like, I swear to God, it looks like some Hall of Famer out there playing. Like, he is just the real deal. He's a top 15 player for me and probably my favorite corner in this entire class. And finally, my CB1 of this class is going to be Christian Gonzalez. Christian Gonzalez is just the prototypical cornerback prospect. He is crazy athletic. He had really good production over his college career. This season, he was definitely challenged. He doesn't have the best yardage allowed. His completion percentage was actually one of the higher ones in this class, but overall, his coverage grade was really good. 83.9. I gave him a tape grade of a 6. That's a really good number there as well. His relative athletic score came out at a 9.94. That is like elite of the elite when it comes to athleticism at the cornerback position. Really long player with very long arms. He is so fluid. Like, you watch him and it's teach tape. His hips are silky smooth. He is just like a perfect technician out there, and he has room to grow as well because he's young. This guy's going to get drafted and probably be one of the top 10 corners within the first 8 games or so. Like, I just feel that strongly about this guy. He's just so solid. He brings such a good floor at the corner position. He has really good experience. He was solid throughout his whole career. I love everything that he brings to the table. He is like your premier boundary corner. Really good athlete. Very good at the catch point, not afraid to go tackle in the run. His play strength isn't the best in the class, but it's good. He has amazing ball skills. I can't talk any more highly of this guy. The first time I threw on his tape, I was like, this is the CB1. I was more wowed by Devin Witherspoon's crazy plays, but just watching Christian Gonzalez be the technician that he is, I knew that he was going to be CB1 right away. Starting my channel off, the very first video that I had done was Christian Gonzalez. He was the one that got me into making YouTube videos. I just knew when I put it on, he was the CB1, and at the time he was ranked as like CB4 or CB5. I'm gonna rock with Christian Gonzalez as my CB1. His ceiling is out of this world because of how athletic he is, the production, the ball skills. I love him. That's my CB1. He's pretty much consensus CB1 at this point, so it's kind of redundant that I'm saying that, but man, I love Christian Gonzalez. All right, fellas, that's all I have for you today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed my rankings. I put a lot of work leading up to this video. Now, I'm not here to debate with anybody. These are my rankings. You guys might have Emmanuel Forbes as your CB1, and that's okay. I feel really confident in what I do. I have my process just like everybody else does. These are my guys. This is my rankings. There are players that I left out of this list. Guys like Garrett Williams and Julius Brents just missed the cut. Kyo Blue Kelly's also another name. I didn't put Clark Phillips in here or Tre'Davious Hodges Tomlinson. Those are slot corners to me. They're just way undersized. There's just so many names at the cornerback position in this draft. It's hard to come up with these top 10 rankings. I like them all. It's my favorite position in the class, but these are my top 10. So hopefully you guys like the video. If you guys agree or disagree with any of my rankings, feel free to put it in the comment section below. Again, thank you guys for watching the video, sitting through my top 10. Hopefully my team or you guys' team can land some of these guys. It's a very talented class, but we'll see what happens when that day comes. All right, fellas, peace.